One, two, one, two, one, two. Here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason, and you can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear this podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. A Catalyst has the power to create change. We hope that's what this podcast will do. If you would like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Welcome, welcome to episode 43 of the Catalyst Podcast. All right, so hope everybody has been enjoying themselves. Hope everybody has had wonderful time as we get ready for the just out of Memorial Day weekend. And we're looking to move into the summer months. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. We have more and more people listening to the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to want to be a contributor. We would love to have you contribute. All right. So, again, we thank you, and we hope you continue to listen, and we hope to continue to grow. We're just a few steps away from 50, so that's pretty exciting. Right here at episode 43. So we're getting ready to move forward into the next step. So let's talk about our subject for today. No. That's what I said, no. No. The ultimate productivity hack you've probably been ignoring, but shouldn't. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about productivity, right? We've all been there, drowning in to-do lists, feeling like a hamster on a never-ending wheel. We scour the internet for hacks and life cheats and magic productivity formulas. But what if I told you the most powerful tool in your arsenal is a tiny two-letter word? No. Well, today we're going to be tackling the concept so simple that it might blow your mind. The power of no. So think about it. When was the last time you felt truly accomplished? Was it the day after saying yes to every request, every notification, every social media rabbit hole? Probably not. The truth is, saying no is the ultimate productivity hack. Now let's be honest. Now, the internet is a productivity gold mine. You've got hacks for waking up at 5 a.m., time management techniques, acronyms longer than your grocery list, and enough productivity apps to fill your smartphone graveyard. But here's the thing. Most of these hacks focus on doing more. What if I told you the real key to getting more done is actually doing less? Think about it. We live in a world obsessed with saying yes. Yes to every work request. Yes to every social obligation. And yes to extra helpings of fries. Because, hey, you deserve it after a crazy productivity day, right? But by constantly saying yes, we spread ourselves thin, dilute our focus, and ultimately achieve less. Now here's a powerful quote from author Tim Ferriss that perfectly captures this. Every time we say yes to one more thing, we're saying no to all the things you could have done with that time. Boom! Mic drop. Now before you picture me as some productivity Scrooge, turning down everything from birthday parties to helping a stranger on the street, hear me out. Saying no isn't about being a social hermit. It's about becoming a master of your time and energy. It's about understanding your priorities and saying no to anything that doesn't align with them. Think of Steve Jobs, the Apple co-founder. He famously said, innovation distinguishes between leaders and followers. Innovation does not happen when you're buried under a mountain of tasks. It happens when you have the focus and energy to explore new ideas. All right. So let me tell you a quick story, right? I remember a time where I committed to being a judge at a hot dog eating contest here at the complex I live in for 4th of July. It was a huge mistake, all right? Don't get me wrong. I love hot dogs, but judging 27 questionable hot dogs while simultaneously trying to give motivational pep talks to nervous people was a productivity nightmare. Let's just say my focus on finishing that story about goal setting went out the window faster than a soggy hot dog. Right? Learning to say no to things like the hot dog eating contest is what allowed me to focus on what truly matters. Creating content that helps you become the best version of yourself. Now here's the deal. When you say no to things that drain your time and energy, you free up yourself to tackle the things that truly matter. You become more focused, more creative, and ultimately more productive. So, how do you actually harness the power of no? Right? How do we do that? All right, here are some actionable tips to get you started. All right, grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper. Grab yourself the little notepad on your smartphone. Get yourself a whiteboard with a Sharpie, whatever you need to do. We got 4 things, some actionable tips to get you able to get started to harness the power of no. Number 1, identify your priorities. What are your biggest goals? What are you truly passionate about? Right? What do you love? What do you love to do? It could be anything. Write it down, or write any of them down, all of them, and keep them front and center. This becomes your filter to do everything. I've got 3 or 4 sticky notes that are on my computer that I look at every single day. My priorities, the podcast, the reels, the blog, and putting those things into action. Also, I have there my why. What's my why? What's my reason for doing all this? I have that there too. All right. So write down your priorities. What's your biggest goal, right? Second thing, learn to say, and this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one for a lot of people. Learn to say no politely, but firmly. Learn to say no politely, but firmly. Thanks, but I'm swamped right now. Or that sounds great, but I already have a commitment, are perfectly acceptable responses. You don't owe anyone an elaborate explanation. And we feel like sometimes we need to do that. We need to let them know, well, here's the long list of reasons why I can't do it. You know what? I can't do it. I can't do it. Instead of giving a 30-minute dissertation on why, I just can't do it. Why? I'm just not able to do it. And some people will fight and force to try and bring something out of you. My schedule's booked. Can't. Not going to work. All right? Learn to say no politely but firmly. All right? You don't have to go into detail. You don't have to give them, all this information. Just keep it simple, stupid. They don't have to like it, but you don't know anybody, anything. You don't. So, don't do it. All right, so you got to identify your priorities. Learn to say no politely but firmly. Our next one is don't be afraid of the FOMO monster. Don't be afraid of the FOMO monster. FOMO, yes, fear of missing out, right? It is a real thing. But remember, sometimes the best things in life happen when you step away from the crowd. You know, sometimes the most magical things is when you take the road less traveled. I always use an example of when I was working with Aflac in the corporate office, and we had to fly to these multiple locations. There was a group of us, and we all had these different locations we had to go to. Even though I was in Florida, I couldn't get a Florida location because everybody else wanted to go to Florida. So I got the Midwest. And you know what? It would have been great to go to my home state and like for bragging rights. And I could tell an amazing story that I was told by somebody that was like, him going to see his friend was far more important than me going to spend time with my family. And that's what I was told. That's what I was told. Um, but don't be afraid of missing out. And like I was saying, so I'm talking about this story about being on the road, and I could have flown to every one of the places, but when I looked, there was anywhere between 6 to 8 hours of drive time. So I rented a car, and the car was actually cheaper to rent than the tickets. Instead of sitting around and just farting around in an airport and running from connection to connection, getting a rental car, getting the whole thing, I just drove. And I got to see so many things. We were in Indianapolis. I got to go to Lucas Oil Stadium. I was in downtown Indianapolis. I went to the 500. I went to Michael Jackson's birthplace. I went to James Dean's birthplace, Abraham Lincoln's father's farm. There were so many things. John Wayne's birthplace. I was in Iowa. It was fantastic. Had the best time. Lots of fun. So again, don't be afraid of the FOMO monster, because again, because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that you're not going to find or have something special. All right. Sometimes the best things in life happen when you step away from the crowd. All right. So identify your priorities. Learn to say no politely and firmly. Don't be afraid of the FOMO monster. And finally, schedule time to say no. Block out time on your calendar. Be focused on your work, self-care, and simply doing nothing. It's your no zone, a sacred space where you can recharge and avoid the yes monster. Just schedule it. It's no-go zone time. All right? So, identify your priorities. Learn to say no politely but firmly. Don't be afraid of the FOMO monster. Schedule time to say no. Remember, saying no isn't selfish, it's empowering. It's the way to take control of your time, your energy, and ultimately your life. And with that being said, I want to thank you so much for listening to the Catalyst Podcast, raw, real, and unedited. My name is Jason. And you can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope this podcast will do. If you'd like to be a part of this podcast as a guest or a contributor, you can email us at catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. That's catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to episode 43. No, the ultimate productivity hack you're probably ignoring but shouldn't. We will see you again on episode 44. Thank you all so very much for listening. This is Jason saying, go be great.